Hi, Assalamualaikum and good evening, Miss Alia. My name is Nurwana from Group 1, and today my group is going to explain about the analysis of our survey that we have conducted entitled The Perception of Code Switching from English to Malay During Informal Interaction Among University Students. So, before we start, I'm going to introduce the members of the group one that consists of Nur Aziza and me, Nur Huaina, Nur Wahida, Wan Maisara Afrina, and Yasmin Maisara. So, first and foremost, I'm going to explain about the meaning of the code switching. Among Malaysians, as Malaysians, we are fully aware that Malaysians like to mix their mother tongue language with English, or often we call it as Bahasa Rojak. So, in Selangor state of Kuala Lumpur, most of the citizens coming from like various educational backgrounds in the family would at least like speak two language at most. And which are their mother tongue languages like Malay, Mandarin, or Tamil, and the other language is like English. So therefore, it is not a wonder why they can mix their mother tongue languages with English, and eventually the Manglish is formed. So from this, as Malaysian or multilingual speakers, the code switching is such a norm on their daily lives. So for example, I tengah tunggu you, as in the fully English sentence is I am waiting for you. So for the main objective of this survey is basically the same as our title of the survey, which is to study the perception of code switching during informal interactions among university students. So moving on to the next presenter.
Thank you very much, Warna. Greetings to Miss Alia. My name is Nur Aziza, and I'll be elaborating further on literature review. So code switching, or known as the language alternation, happens when a speaker tries to alternate between two or more languages that will contribute to optimize the comfort of others in any conversation. So the capabilities to apply fluent code switching has become a hallmark of bilingual language users' flexibility and creativity. Based on the latest findings, have altered our understanding of code switching and its consequences for language processing and regulations. One is that code switching is not random, but rather is constrained by specific linguistic and cognitive restriction. Another is that while not all bilingual code switch, those who do so in ways that are consistent with community norms. The implementation of code switching has been widely used for most Malaysians. For example, a study has been conducted entitled the Rojak Phenomenon, where the study investigated about KL Malay speakers were transcribed and closed after they were questioned and reported. According to the result, a considerable percentage of English words have been imported into KL Malay lexicon and been used to replace their KL Malay counterparts. And the code switching phenomenon also has been identified in a conversation, but also from any social media posting. To be specific, an investigation also been done with the title of English Malay Code Mixing Innovation in Facebook among Malaysian university students. This study looked at how often English morphemes were inserted into Malay lexical items in Facebook posts by university students. In a nutshell, the use of code switching has been considered as the most common practice for most of the bilingual and multilingual communities. The speakers who switch codes are usually to achieve various objectives. This may be due to asserting group solidarity, to begin relationship, or even a personal marker of identity. Move on to methodology.
So thank you, Aziza. So greetings to Miss Alia, and I am Miss Sarah, and I will continue the presentation with the methodology part. So after we receive the project guidelines, we proceed by choosing the issue, which is the title is the perception of code switching from English to Malay during informal interactions among university students. So the main procedure we used for this survey was to conduct a survey questionnaire, and under the guidance and supervision of our lecturer, Miss Alia, a total 15 questions were prepared. The questionnaire details were separated into two categories, which are part A is demographic data and part B is code switching in informal interactions. So instead of the traditional method, we use Google Form because it is more easier and more convenient. Then we have decided to distribute the survey questionnaire to all university students, whether they are from MSU or other universities. So we were expected to receive at least 30 responses, but we were able to collect all 50 responses in only 2 days. The questionnaire was distributed to those students through a link and QR code from the Google Form that we provided, and it was shared on our social media platforms, which include status or group WhatsApp as well as Instagram stories. So the reason why we created our questionnaire on Google Form is because we believe that it could be viewed quickly and without restrictions, and it's also affordable and flexible. So before we distribute the questionnaire, we explain and inform the respondents first about the purpose of our survey. And the study of data analysis was done in a quantitative manner. So the reason why we choose a quantitative manner is that the data is more clear, concentrate, and more acceptable. So we also decided to organize the data into a table and pie chart based on the answer to the specific questions. So last but not least, we believe this technique are the most practical and straightforward method of allocating the result. So I will pass to the next presenter.
All right, so we'll be moving on to the next session of data analysis and the discussion, and I'll be explaining on the first third question of this questionnaire. Based on the first pie chart, it shows a data of students who use code switching in their daily conversations. And majority of the respondents, where 90% of them are clicking on the yes option, and as for the remaining of 10% of the students are disagreeing that they are using code switching in their daily communication. Move on to the second question. It shows a data of students who improve their confidence to speak with their friends when using code switching. Majority of the students with a percentage of 94% are agreeing with the statement given as they are clicking on the yes column, and the rest of 6% of the students are not agreeing with the statement by clicking on the no column. And move on to the third question. It shows a data of code switching as one of the best way to strengthen the student English. Out of 50 respondents, majority of the students answered on the yes column with a percentage of 88%, and the remaining 12% are not agreeing to the statement given. Most of the students answer yes to the statement most probably believe that switching codes help them a lot to understand any difficult word and easier to deliver the information when they are interacting towards each other. Besides, code switching help them to be more accurate to convey a meaning and will be facing fewer language barriers in any conversation. As I believe, to improve English, it needs a lot of practice and it's totally fine to make any mistake. Move on to the next question.
All right, moving on to the question 4, 5, and 6. I'm Sarah. Okay, so pie chart 4 shows the data of the students surrounding that use code switching. So out of 50 respondents, 90%, which consists of 45 students, agree with the statement that they have been surrounded by people who use code switch by clicking on the yes column. So as for the remaining 10%, which consists of 5 students, disagree with the statement by clicking on the no column. Next, pie chart 5 shows the data of students who think code switching affects the students' English language. So out of 50 respondents, 68%, which consists of 34 students, agreed and said yes for the question. 32%, which consists of 16 students, disagreed with the question that they felt code switching doesn't affect their English language. So the majority of the students said yes. However, it is troubling that the other student replied no, maybe because they believe that their code switching wouldn't affect them. So while the majority of them felt that it will have an impact on them, students may be affected by code switching since it allows them to express their feelings, affections, and also influence the public on the important subjects. The concept of code switching has also increased social relationships, resulting in a major improvement in social status. So this can benefit students not just in the classroom, but also in everyday life, such as in a meeting or on the future date. So as a result, professors or teachers should be pay greater attention to their students' abilities by giving tools for them to practice improving their code switching capabilities. So meanwhile, for the chart 6, shows the data of students who believe that code switching benefits them. So a total of 46 respondents out of 50 answered yes with the statement above, which makes up a total of 92%. On the other hand, the remaining 4 students who had chosen the answer no about code switching benefit them, which makes up a percentage of 8%. Moving on to the next presenter.
So thank you, Yasmin. So I will move to the question 7, 8, and 9. So for table 7 shows a data of students who always hear Manglish in their daily conversation. So a total of 49 respondents out of 50, which are the majority of them, answer yes with the statement above, which make up a total of 98%. On the other hand, the remaining 1 student had chosen the answer no because they always hear Manglish in their daily conversation, which make up a percentage of 2%. So we believe that the majority majority of students answer yes to this statement because Malay is the primary language spoken in our country, followed by the English as our second language. So the majority of individuals are fluent in their native language rather than a second language. So we believe that people in our country could switch frequently because they want to master English as our second language. So as a result, many people will could switch in their daily life and will influence others. So we assume that the 2% of pupils who say no are using English as their primary language rather than Malay. So as a result, they will be fluent in English and will not have the code switch to Manglish. So move on to table 8, shows a data of students who think that they learn Manglish from their daily conversation with family and friends. So out of 50 respondents, 44% of students 47 students agree and said yes for the questions, and 6% of students consist of 3 students disagree with the question and said no for the question about their learning English from their daily conversation with family and friends. So moving on to the question 9, that shows a data of students who think that they make more mistake in their English language when code switching. So out of 50 respondents, 56% of students consist of 28 students answer yes with the question above. And on the other hand, 44% of students consist of 20 students had chosen no by clicking the no column. So this statement was responded yes by the majority of students. And we believe this is because students who could switch will not know the correct spelling and correct pronunciation of English words. So they will be unfamiliar with using a proper and correct grammar in their sentences when they code switching. So as a result, they will make several errors in their English, whether speaking or writing, and we feel the remaining students who replied no have mastered the English language. So even if they code switching in English, they still know the right spelling and pronunciation of English words. So as an outcome, even if they are frequently code switching, they will make a fewer errors in their English language. So if we have mastered both language, there are nothing wrong with the code switching in our daily life, since it will not affect the language, whether our first language or second language. So I will pass to the next presenter.
All right, thank you very much. Greetings to Ms. Alia. My name is Nurul Wahida. I'll be presenting the data analysis for question 10, 11, and 12. Firstly, looking at question number 10, it says, do you feel more comfortable to code switching when talking to your friends? So based on the question, there are 90%, which is 45 students out of 50, agreed with the question, while the other 10%, about 5 of the students, disagreed. So what we can conclude from this finding is most of the students are fluent in English. In our opinion, if they are fluent in English, then of course they don't have a problem in mixing the language, so it makes them comfortable doing it. Another reason might also because of the influence from international and global factors such as the English movies, songs, reading materials, and of course the social media. Moving on to question 11, it says, do you think code switching in informal setting might affect your speaking ability in a formal setting? So based on the data, the majority of the students, which is 32 out of 50 students, which is 64%, agreed with the question, while 18 students, which is 36%, disagreed with the question. Based on this finding, we believe that when the students are used to code switching in their daily conversation, it will become their habit to speak the same way even in a formal setting. As a bilingual or multilingual, it is more likely for us to confuse or mixing both of the languages. For instance, if we are thinking in our primary language, we have to translate that to English. So when the students are in informal setting, it does not matter if they switch, but when it comes to a formal setting, they cannot just simply mixing both language, which is why the majority agreed to the question. Moving on to the next question, question 12 asks, do you think code switching might lead to the loss of fluency in English? 14 respondents, which is 28%, said yes, while 36 respondents, which is 72%, said no to the question, which makes the majority of the respondents disagreed that code switching might lead to the loss of fluency in English. In this finding, we also believe that fluency might be the reason. When the students are fluent in both languages, they surely know how to differentiate the languages. Taking example from the majority of our respondents' first language, which is Malay, in terms of the grammar, the sentence structure, and the words are very different.
So when they are fluent, they have no issue in differentiating the languages. So it certainly will not affect to the loss of fluency in English. So that's all for my part. I'll be passed to the next presenter. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Wahida. So for the last three questions, the most highest percentage that choose yes as their answer is the last question, which is question 15. Whereas the least question that the students answer no is also from the last question, which is question 15. So from question 13, 46% of the respondents agreed that code switching might affect their second language, whereas 54%, which means majority of the respondents, disagree with the questions. For question 14, it is shown that it is proven that the majority of the respondents, which is 56% of the respondents, think they can improve a lot of their speaking skills if they have not used code switching in their daily conversations. Meanwhile, 44% have disagreed. So for the last question, which is produced the most majority and the least answered, is the majority that answered yes, proven that as most of the students from various educational backgrounds, English might be their first language and they have no problem in conversing in English fully without code switching. So that's all from me. Moving on to the conclusions.
Okay, so for the conclusion, the functions of code switching were explored in this study by taking into account the native speaker factor amongst university students, as well as looking at the speech actions as a technique to look at the reasons for employing code switching. So code switching allows us to convey our emotions, affection, and persuade the public on the critical issues. So after all, we must also consider the long-term consequences of code switching, which might be influence students' interaction with native speakers of the target language. So that's all for our group. Thank you.